They may take our lives, but they will never take our freedom. This is a well-known quote from the movie Braveheart. The movie centers itself around the Scottish hero, William Wallace. When I was young, I spent 2 weeks in Scotland studying the traditions and the history of the Scottish people. Not only did I just study the traditions, but I studied the hero himself, William Wallace. I bought the replica sword used in the movie, and I touched the statue of William Wallace that stands high in Stirling. He is a hero among the people, and will always be remembered for his bravery and his courage. But what did William Wallace do? Why is he so famous to the Scottish people? To every question, there is an answer. But first, we need to look at the history between the English and the Scottish. In the late 1200s, Scotland was ruled by the Guardians of Scotland. England was ruled by the one and only Edward I, otherwise known as Longshanks. The English, through the leadership of Longshanks, pursued to conquer Scotland. Longshanks allowed Scotland to be independent, but commanded that he be the overlord of their country, thus taking away any hope of independence that the Scottish people had. Longshanks had complete control of Scotland. Not only was Scotland struggling for their freedom, but it didn't help that the Guardians of Scotland were siding with the enemy. Longshanks often offered the Guardians riches, land, and titles for their individual cooperation. How could Longshanks be stopped? So now that we understand the struggle that the Scottish people were going through, let's look at the bright ray of hope that will be emerging for them just around the corner. William Wallace was born in January in 1272. He grew up to be 6 feet 7 inches tall and was not only clearly a giant of a man, but intelligent as well. At a young age, he went to live with his uncle, Sir Richard Wallace. William was trained well with the sword and learned expert fighting tactics. Story has it that when William got older, he was fishing one day. 5 English soldiers rode up on him and attempted to take his life. William succeeded in killing all 5 Englishmen and beheading 3 of them. Obviously, William was now an outlaw for that. In those times, that would be seen as multiple cold-blooded murders. He was a criminal and a man with a price on his head. He was 20 years old at that time, and his only choices were to fight or to die. Wallace spent the next 5 years seeking revenge on anything with an English insignia on it. He became an expert at raids and understanding how his enemy moved. The Battle of Stirling Bridge and the sacking of York were both led by Wallace. They both crushed the English, and Longshanks finally began to notice that this William Wallace may be a force to be reckoned with. Wallace was finally named a Guardian of Scotland and continued his slaying, leaving nothing but blood and ashes behind him. The Battle of Falkirk, though, was a different story and was a disaster for Wallace and his men. The superior archery skills of the English led to the defeat of the Scots, and shortly after Wallace was betrayed by his fellow countryman, Sir John Monteith. William was condemned of treason and executed by decapitation in 1305 by Longshanks himself. Longshanks thought that Wallace's death would send a message to the Scottish people. He could not have been any farther from the truth, I'll tell you that. Shortly after his execution, the Scots rioted and they defeated English, thus finally earning their freedom. So thus died this courageous patriot, leaving a remembrance which will be immortal in the hearts of his countrymen forever. So how do you judge the caliber of a man? In my opinion, you start by looking at William Wallace, the man who died for his country, the man who led his country in the battle, knowing that death was around the corner and knowing that he was going up against an enemy that was impossible to defeat. He was a man of freedom and was willing to do anything for the people of his country. Wallace is a personal hero of mine and a nation's hero in the heart and minds of the Scottish people.